Welcome to the Public Works Podcast, where we spotlight the people, projects, and leaders shaping the communities that we live in. I'm your host, Shane Silsby. In today's episode, we feature a conversation with Hye Jin Lee, the Director of Public Works for the City of Chino in California. We were on site for this interview at City Hall in Chino to speak with Hye Jin, who is a licensed professional engineer with a career rooted in public service, infrastructure leadership, and with a passion for building strong teams within local governments. In this episode, we talk about her journey into public works, what it's like leading a full-service public works department within a full-service city, and how culture, collaboration, and purpose play a critical role in delivering infrastructure that truly serves its community. Whether you're early in your public works career, leading a department, or simply interested in how cities get built and maintained, this is a conversation you won't want to miss. We talk with Hye Jin about her approach to service as an opportunity, as a passion, and as a way that she chooses to lead and represent her cities that she works in, and as a way she chooses to represent the city of Chino in this case. Thanks for stopping by, and let's get into it. This is the Public Works Podcast. Good afternoon. Welcome back to the Public Works Podcast. I'm your host, Shane Silsby, and today we're joined by a remarkable leader in the municipal infrastructure and community service industry, and that is Hye Jin Lee, the Director of Public Works here at the City of Chino. We're on site in your offices. Thanks for making time today, Hye Jin, and for being on the show.
Thank you. As always, it's a pleasure talking to you, Shane.
That's great. And a side note here, this is a bit of a return for you. You were on our live session at the APWA-PWX conference.
That's right.
So we were broadcasting live for the first time. You were nice enough to jump in and just do a little bit of a promotion for the city, but now we want to dig in a little bit more to your career and what you have going on.
I appreciate that.
To kick things off, I'm curious about your journey, especially how you found your way into public service. And before your current role, you had an extensive career working in the industry. Can you tell us a bit about, what drew you to the profession in the first place, and then we'll talk about where you went from there.
My profession, I call it a calling, as I was soul searching on what to do in college. As a little child, I wanted to be a veterinarian, and I realized that bio and the blood was not going to be my thing. So I decided I need to something that has more meaning. And I decided that I wanted to build infrastructure to make people's lives better. And through that soul searching process, the major of civil engineering came up. I thought, oh my goodness, that's something that I could do. I could build roads, I could build wells, I could provide water. So all of that infrastructure kind of came together. And that's how I chose civil engineering. And that's how my career started.
That's an awesome start. It seems like people I talk to in the civil engineering industry, they have kind of that revelation that I'm good at math and science, and I want to try to make a difference. And for civil engineering, you are improving the community. So you can see what you're doing. It has that sense of value. Early on, I understand part of that vision was to extend beyond just a traditional pathway, and that maybe you wanted to do something more meaningful that you talked about and improve people's lives. How did that evolve into a career then in municipal engineering or public service versus just the overall engineering field or maybe in the private sector?
Yeah. So my first 10 years was spent consulting, and that's where I learned a lot of my technical skills. And then I realized that it's great I'm building giant infrastructures, but I wanted to see what I do really matter to the community that was closer to home. So that's how my journey began. My first municipal career began at City of Fullerton, which is right next to the city that I live in City of Brea. And it was so much fun because whatever I did was local. I could actually see it. I also had an opportunity to build a lot of parks. And those kind of park projects, which is not a typical civil engineering projects, it has such a deep meaning because I actually got to see people and children enjoying the facilities and enjoying the play areas that are local to them. And I even took my own kids there when my kids were growing up. So it was fun to see how what I did have a direct impact on communities' quality of life.
That's really cool. And I always like to live in the area I work. If there's a municipality, I like to live there for those reasons. Also, the listeners might not always know that in urbanized environment, a lot of times there's a scarcity of parks. And so something you think could be pretty basic, well, we just opened this area, why is that such a big thing? But people don't always have other opportunities, and that might be their only green space they get to access. So it really improves their quality of life.
Yeah. Actually, Fullerton is like 100 years old. So a lot of their parks are old. So the improving those parks had a huge impact on the community.
For sure. And in some cases, I'm not saying this about Fullerton, but some cities, they kind of grow so quickly, especially, 100 years ago or even 50 years ago, and maybe wouldn't have thought about parks at that time. And then you have to go back and figure out how to work those back in the community. That's really interesting. Appreciate you sharing that. Now, shifting over to your current role at City of Chino, stepped into this role as a director of public works here about a year and a half to 2 years. What were your first priorities, Hye Jin, when you came to this leadership position?
As you know, City of Chino is a growing community in the Inland Empire. We call it Chino has a jackpot of the real estate of location. So it's thriving and growing. But Chino Public Works and Engineering Department wasn't quite set up for providing the service that the community needed, because community grew, but the resources didn't. So one of my first priority was actually building the team and to have people have a sense of pride of ownership for the projects that they work on, even our public works yard operations, to have that pride of what they do really matter to the community. So really building that culture of, this is my city, this is where I'm going to invest in providing my services and see this community grow. So it was my job and honor to actually build our engineering team and to impart and empower our crew and our staff to have that sense of pride for what they do, for that professional work that we provide to the community.
Yeah, that's great. And just so people kind of understand, for the City of Chino, what's roughly the size of your public works department here? How many folks?
I have 127 full-time employees.
Okay, so that's good size. And then your budget is roughly what would you say?
Even our CIP budget is about 120. I can't quite recall the operational budget, but it's quite substantial. We have a full service city. We provide water, sewer, obviously all the fleet maintenance, parks, and the whole full service city.
Sure. And so your capital improvement program, about 120 million or so, that's robust. And then your budget, probably part of the issue is you have all those different revenue sources that make up your operational budget. Right. So depending on the function, right, it's, well, it's this much and that much. That's great. It's got to be fun to work for a full service city. And listeners might not know that in California, at least, there are some cities that are so small that they don't have their own services and contract and things like that. So Chino is just big enough where it has all of those things and it's growing, which is another kind of interesting dynamic to deal with when you have to deal with all those services and you're growing. And you mentioned the location. What makes this location so advantageous? And we'll talk about the business community in a minute, but we're east of Los Angeles. We're on one of the only corridors, kind of east-west, north of the mountain range, from the coast to the inland. What else kind of makes this a key location?
We are next to LA County, Orange County, Riverside County, and we're at the edge of San Bernardino County. So we have access to all the businesses in the surrounding counties, and we are just about the right distance away from the LA ports and Long Beach ports. We have a lot of not only logistics center, but we have a lot of manufacturing, research and development, and just really a thriving community. And people choose to live here because they have access to many employment opportunities in LA County, Orange County, Riverside, including people even go down to South County and Irvine through the toll roads.
Okay. Yeah. So you're kind of at that hub of the spokes of all those different counties and the transportation networks. And listeners probably know LA County has 11 million people, largest in the country. Orange County is sixth largest in the country, but then San Bernardino County is largest by land area.
That's
so
right.
A lot of interesting things happening here. And then, of course, some of the busiest ports in the world to our west. So that's cool. Also, probably a little bit of affordability for the residents here as they moved outside of LA County a little bit to get a little bit more affordability for their quality of life.
You get a lot more for your dollars and what you could pay in LA, and then you actually have a community and homes that you could afford here. But we also have a planned community, south part of the city called the Preserve, where a lot of the new development is occurring there now. We have a population growth in southern part of the city that looks just like Irvine if you ever drive through.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, it's a planned community, similar type houses, but probably some nice infrastructure gets put in ahead and gets that set up.
Yes.
That's great. You mentioned culture a little bit. One of the things I've kind of read in some of the interviews you've done before, articles, is that you did put an emphasis on culture here. We came to this position. And part of that deals with breaking down silos, empowering teams, things like that. Not always easy in a field as broad as public works. And what we mean by broad is all those different functional areas that you talked about. And then the different types of employees you have. You have people that have engineering degrees and you have people that are running a street sweeper or something like that. So a big variation of a group. And when you say a focus on culture, can you talk about what that looked like in practice, and some of the things you might have done or thought about and maybe you're still doing, and then why that's so important to these teams?
Yes. So one of the first thing I did, obviously my office is physically at City Hall, but I have more people working at our operations yard. So I make a point of visiting our operations yard a couple of times a week to not only go say hello and see what they're doing, but sometimes I like to visit them in the field where they're actually working.
Sure. Yeah.
So that way they know that I'm present just in name, but I'm actually present in their work life. And I understand their challenges of what they're working on. And I talk to them. I learned so much from actually talking to our field crew because they're the one who's actually, we call them boots on the ground, and they really understand what our community needs and have an opportunity to share like what kind of equipment they need. Like what are some of the resources that they need that I did not think about. So those are some of the things that I do. And monthly, we actually get together, whole team. So we all meet at the yard because we do have facility that are a little bit bigger. All of us gather together to talk about what each division is working on so that people are not like, this is what I do, and I don't really know what other people are doing. I want people to know that our public works department is and have a very diverse skill set. So I want them to feel proud that we are each other's resources. And if our field resources need some technical input, they are welcome to come and talk to our engineers. And if our engineers need some operational questions like, hey, if we build it this way, can you maintain it?
Yeah.
So that kind of conversation, I want that to be a normal occurrence. I don't want that to be like, oh, I'm at the yard, I'm going to only talk to the people here. I'm at City Hall, I'm only going to talk to people at City Hall. No, we're one team. So I want all of us to be each other's resources.
That's a good idea. Two things come to mind when you mention that. One is almost every public works department I've interacted with or evaluated, if you look at it from a pyramid standpoint, most of the employee groups are in the operations and maintenance teams, right? Because they have to cover things outside of City Hall. The second thing you mentioned was going to where they're at. And I found that if you take operations and maintenance folks, orange shirts, field folks, put them in a conference room and you ask them for feedback, it's a bit uncomfortable. But if you're going to the field where they are and they're busy doing their things and working, they might say, oh, yes, this is what I'm talking about, or this is what we need. So I think that's a great idea that you were doing that.
Yeah. And I learned that there are certain prone areas that are getting illegal dumping. I'm like, oh, why is that? So let's see what we could do. Let's install some cameras. We find solutions together.
Sure. That's great. Cameras is a good lead to my next question about innovation. And innovation is a big theme in public works today, from technology to sustainability. But it can be a challenge for government because we're usually the last to adopt because we have to make sure everything is right and meets all the regulations. But for Chino, have they done some forward-thinking, innovative ideas or some initiatives in areas like wastewater, infrastructure planning, or adopting other technologies? What are your thoughts about that? How do you approach innovation within your public works department?
Yeah, I've never been shy of trying something new and something innovative. Actually, my master's thesis was applications of artificial neural network in transportation engineering way back when. And it kind of became a pattern recognition and like that technology advancement in transportation engineering and electric vehicles. It always was forward thinking in that arena, but now we have AI.
Yes.
So one of the things that I talked to our crew about is, hey, now we have advanced technology in assessing our pipes, our sewer pipes, storm drain pipes, and even our water infrastructure. And we have AI technology that we could utilize to do pipe assessments to prioritize our pipe replacement schedule. So that's one of the next year's initiative is let's see what we could do to actually do a AI pipe conditions assessment and prioritize our projects that way. That way we're not spinning our wheels and we only know this much and then this is what we're going to do. Let's actually do the whole city and prioritize it. That way we could spend our funds wisely. And we don't have a lot of overflows, anything like that, but we want to be proactive.
Sure.
And same thing with the water system.
Yeah, you are probably working on this, and maybe the listeners know, but some of the AI models can help predict where your breaks could occur. And so planning ahead, being able to fix those or replace those pipes before it happens, better for your community, for your service, right. and because you're planning it, usually it's going to cost less, right, in an emergency situation. So I think that's great that you're working on that. That also helps the community, like we said, and I wanted to ask you about that. On the community side, Chino's kind of brand or what they're talking about is we're open for business. Chino's
That's
open
right.
for
we're
business.
Open for business.
That's right. And trying to attract other investments, the residents. How does the public works team help create an environment where businesses want to grow here and where residents want to be here and feel pride in their city?
I call it, going back to the real estate law of location, but also it's the curb appeal.
Yes.
And I call our streets a curb appeal for our businesses.
That's
Just
right.
like, front of your house or your residential street is a curb appeal for your home. Our street and how we present our arterial streets and commercial corridors is a testament to how we want to invite and make our business investors feel like they're welcome here. And it's like, oh, this is a nice community. I could do business here. So one of the initiatives that we're also discussing, and we already talked to council about it, and they are fully supporting it, is a urban forest management plan to make sure our streets look beautiful with the right type of trees, and also entry monuments to the community, entry monuments to the city. We want to make a statement like, hey, when you're entering City of Chino, we want to have an identity of what City of Chino is. So when you enter, like, oh, okay, so City of Chino, it's a nice place. Oh, the medians look nice. So we want that kind of a response from anyone who wants to come, not only invest here, but visit here, but also live here.
Sure. I think it's interesting you bring that up as an initiative because people probably think about curb appeal as what they see beyond the curb, right? A curb is the concrete edge of the street. Your point is, well, if we can make the actual curb and what's next to it look good, then maybe they'll invest in what's beyond that, right? So that's kind of an interesting philosophy there. Hadn't thought about that before, so kudos to you for that.
Yeah.
Part of what makes a good community is partnerships also. Related to that, building and maintaining successful partnerships with agencies or contractors or community stakeholders. That's a key component of delivering results that are linked to their quality of life. What's your approach to collaboration and ensuring that those partnerships are truly symbiotic or that they're working to their maximum extent?
One of the projects that I inherited when I started here is called Pine Avenue. A Pine Avenue project has been in the book since 2004. So project has been around
20 years before. Yes. Okay.
And unfortunately, they were not able to get it constructed. One of the reasons was the previous leadership was not successful in garnering partnership with their adjacent communities. So one of my first job was, let's see who my partners are and who my neighbors are. Relationship building is a number one priority for me because I think you could do a lot more together than fighting with each other. So one of my initiative was I met with every single adjacent city public works directors and member agency leaders and really earn their trust that I have good intentions for what we are trying to accomplish. So we actually garner support for adjacent city partner, City of Chino Hills, for Pine Avenue extension because half the project is on City of Chino Hillside. We have a council support that they're gonna support the project. So we're moving forward. So we have a consultant already awarded and we partner with Caltrans. We're meeting on a regular basis. I mean, we have a whole engineering team who's helping with that, but they understand that relationship building is really important. My team is keeping really close contact with our partners to garner not only the support, but earn their trust that we are gonna do everything that we can to make sure that we listen to their needs and their concerns to incorporate into the design elements.
Sure. It's interesting that even between government agencies, and I'm not saying that's exactly the case here, but you can have somewhat different standards or different approaches or different themes, and people get worried about that, right? Is it going to look like our street or whatever the case might be, which is interesting. The other thing that people might not realize is you might be trying to upgrade a roadway that has maybe 4 lanes, and if the receiving roadway only has 2 lanes, that doesn't work very well for either side, right?
Yep.
So you have to partner and agree that, if the corridor needs an enhancement, let's work together to do that. It helps both entities. But budgets are not always aligned, fiscal years are not always aligned, the political support is not always aligned. So finding a way to do that, or maybe through your efforts, get that alignment, I think is really important and key.
Yeah, with adjacent cities' support, now we could go after federal grants and opportunity for more regional importance. So it's not just City of Chino project, it actually has a regional benefit. It provides access from one end of county to the other. So it's a regional corridor. And as a lot of the engineers know, we have to reduce VMT, vehicle miles traveled. This corridor will help achieve that.
Okay, so you're basically creating a more efficient pathway to move.
Connectivity.
Yes. Great. Any other interesting things about the project that you wanted to share? I'm sure there's 100, but anything that sticks out?
It goes through our core land, and it goes through environmentally sensitive areas. It kind of bisects the golf course, so we're already engaging with the golf course. And obviously, Army Corps, and it also has SAPA, Sana and Watershed Protection Agency. They have facilities there. We're not just building a road. It has regional partners because we have infrastructure buried underground. So we're having conversations early and bringing them on as partners.
Interesting. So where we're at today, there's a federal facility, right? Prado Dam, which
That's right.
has a big, important job in keeping a lot of Orange County from flooding and holding that back here and creating a water supply as well. And so in my old role, that's what I did for the county, is partly working on that with the Army Corps of Engineers. So I understand how that can create some challenges. Everybody's doing their job, but it's just another agency. And when it's a federal agency, it adds that extra layer. So, but you're making headway.
Yeah, we are definitely making headway.
That's great. Yeah. And you can't finish if you don't start. So good job.
That's right.
We talked about that as a potential challenge, but looking at the big picture, every city faces its own unique challenge. A multi-jurisdictional project is a challenge, but whether it's aging infrastructure, workforce development, funding constraints, or climate resilience, what are some of the biggest challenges ahead for the City of Chino? And then how are you trying to prepare for those?
I think one of our challenges is the growth of the city, and how are we going to meet the demands of our additional residents and community expansion, and right-sizing our organization to make sure that we provide the level of service that is expected of our community. That's one communication that we're having with our council, to make sure that we as a public works agency want to provide that level of service. One of my commitment to my city manager when I started here is I want to make Chino Public Works a premier organization for public works. And we're able to recruit really high quality people because people want to come and join this team. And they are interested in what is happening, not only in Chino, but also with Chino Public Works team. So that's really important to me, to build that sense of identity, to be a organization where other agencies can look up to. Chino is not the biggest city, but we want to still be that agency where people could say, you know what, there's something good going on in City of Chino.
Those are really good observations. It makes me think of a couple of points there. One is that when you talk about level of service, it's a bit of a different approach, right? People think, oh, just go fill the pothole, that service, and so we serve the community. But the level of service is about how do you get the request, how quickly do you process the request, how do you do the action, how well do you do the action, how do you follow up? That's all what goes into the service as a holistic element. So that's interesting. You bring the level of service component to that. And then trying to create Chino as a place where folks want to be, especially the workforce. We know that there aren't enough great public works professionals or engineers to fill all of the vacancies and all of the public agents, right? Almost every agency runs at a deficit from a position standpoint or vacancy. So trying to encourage those folks to come to Chino versus another spot every city's great, but if
Yeah.
yours is a little greater,
Yeah.
then maybe you end up with some of the talent there to try to accomplish the
Yeah.
things that you're trying to do.
Yeah, and we have done a really good job recruiting some really top talents, and sometimes we surprise ourselves. It's like, great,
Got them. Well, that's great. So that's a good maybe lesson for others to think about. And for those who are maybe earlier in their career or maybe aspiring to leadership roles in public works like yourself, what advice would you give them, based on your own journey or what you're experiencing now?
Don't be afraid of trying something that you've never tried before because it's a learning opportunity. And communication is huge, important asset of someone's talent. It's not just the technical experience, but it's communication and ability to build relationships and earning the trust of the cohorts and agencies around you. So I think that's my advice. And that's like even advice even to my own kids.
Okay. That's good. So
Yeah.
communication is key, and then building that network, reaching out. Communication for the engineering industry can sometimes be a challenge. People are heavy in science and math, technology. And so do you have any thoughts about how folks could improve their communication skills or just some basic things they might be able to do?
I think that's a very good question because that's one thing that I push here also is give them an opportunity to express their ideas. And as we talk and as we discuss, like I said, we find solutions together. I never tell them what to do. I actually ask them if they have a problem. You could bring me the problem, but you have to also bring solutions with you.
Sure.
But that spurs the conversations. I don't want anyone to be afraid of starting a conversation with me because they're afraid of what response that they might get. I just want to encourage our young professionals to, have a conversation. There isn't anyone out to get you. I think for the most part, someone that I would like to bring on, they have a similar values on investing in our people. Both of our deputy director, our city traffic engineer, and our senior engineering managers, they're all are on same page with developing our staff and empowering them.
That's great. I think what you're talking about there, especially for people earlier in their career, is trying to make recommendations, but make defensible recommendations, right? To think about it, think through some of the ways that things could go right or wrong, and then that builds their credibility as they're trying to communicate. I think also potentially joining associations like the American Public Works Association might be a way to, just get out and meet people and communicate a little bit, or be on a technical committee, or submit a project that you might have to present on. Right?
Yeah, we are definitely are engaged in APWA monthly meetings and such because that's how you meet your other cohorts.
Sure.
Yeah, and build your network.
Exactly. And other conferences and industry opportunities. Chino's the best, but to get just a little bit outside of that to see if there's something that maybe you could bring back to the community.
We could always improve.
Right, of course. Yeah, constant improvement. Well, that's great. Well, Hye Jin, this has been a rich and educational conversation. So thank you for taking the time today to share your insights, your experiences, your leadership lessons with our listeners today. And I know you've got a lot going on, so we really appreciate you taking the time to carve out a little piece of your day to share it with us. And thanks to you all for listening to this episode of the Public Works Podcast. Join us next time for more conversations with people shaping the places we live, work, and play. And until then, take care and keep supporting public service professionals that are trying to improve the communities, your transportation networks, your utilities, just to keep the world running. Thanks for being here.
Thanks. I appreciate the conversation.
Okay. We'll see you next time. Bye. Thanks again for listening to this episode of the Public Works Podcast. I want to thank Hye Jin Lee, Director of Public Works for the City of Chino, for joining us and sharing her journey, her leadership insights, and perspectives on what it takes to serve communities through public works and infrastructure. Hye Jin is doing a great job building her team at the City of Chino, and feel free to stop by and see her and the team as they believe they have a great location between multiple counties in Southern California to have a place for a great community and a great place for people to work. If you found value in today's conversation, please subscribe to the podcast through YouTube, leave us a review, share this episode with a colleague or a friend in public service or those who work with people or want to work with individuals in public service. That effort helps more people discover these important conversations and helps to highlight those in the public works profession. You can also connect with us on LinkedIn, where we share episodes, updates, highlights, and additional notes from each of these important conversations. I'm Shane Silsby, and thanks again for listening. We'll see you next time as we continue the conversation on the Public Works Podcast to build stronger communities through infrastructure and public service. Take care.